The sun was setting when Ethan turned onto his parents' street, the low hum of the engine filling him with a quiet pride. The sleek, black car glided smoothly, catching the last bit of orange light in its polished surface. It wasn't just any car, it was proof. Proof that no matter what had happened, he had risen. As he pulled into the driveway, the sound of the tires crunching against the gravel drew eyes from the porch. His mother, who had been watering the plants, froze mid-motion. His father, seated in his old wooden chair, straightened up, his jaw tightening. And then there was Claire, his younger sister, who stood near the door with her phone in hand. One by one, their expressions shifted, first surprise, then disbelief, and finally something harder to hide, guilt. Ethan stepped out of the car slowly, not rushing, not explaining. He didn't need to. The car itself did all the talking. The glossy finish, the bold curves, the smell of success. It was the kind of car his father once said was too good for someone like. And yet, here it was, sitting in their driveway. "Ethan," his mother finally whispered, her voice breaking slightly. She clutched the watering can tighter, as if it could steady her trembling hand. His father cleared his throat, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. That's some car you've got there." Claire's eyes darted between Ethan and the car. For once, she didn't have a clever remark, no mocking tone, no playful dismissal. Instead, her lips pressed into a thin line, her shoulders sinking under an invisible weight. She couldn't even look him in the eye. The silence grew heavy, pressing down on all of them. Ethan could feel it, the awkward tension, the way they shifted uncomfortably, the way none of them dared to step closer. It wasn't just the car that unsettled them. It was what the car represented. It was a mirror, reflecting back the choices they had made, the betrayal they thought would crush him. Ethan's face stayed calm, almost unreadable. But inside, memories surged. The day he came home and found his old car gone. The way they had told him, so casually that they sold it. The way they said it was for Claire, because family sacrifices for family. The sting of betrayal, the helpless anger, the quiet decision he made that night, that he would rise, and when he returned they would see. He let the silence linger for a moment longer, watching their discomfort deep. His father's hand tightened around the armrest of his chair. His mother blinked rapidly, her lips quivering. Claire shifted her weight from one foot to the other, her face pale. Finally, Ethan allowed himself a small, measured smile. His voice was calm, steady, carrying the weight of every unspoken word. "They thought they had broken me when they sold my car for my sister. But they didn't know I was coming back stronger. Would you like me to make this scene more cinematic and dramatic, with sharper emotional beats, or keep it in this quiet, subtle tension style?" Ethan had always been the quiet one in the family, the one who worked hard without drawing much attention to himself. From the time he was a teenager, he took small jobs after school, stocking shelves, mowing lawns, delivering groceries, anything that would bring in a few extra dollars. While other kids his age spent weekends hanging out with friends or playing video games, Ethan worked. He told himself it was worth it, because he had a dream that kept him going. That dream was simple but powerful, a car of his own. Not just any car, but one he could look at and feel proud of, one that would remind him of every hour of sweat and sacrifice. To Ethan, a car wasn't just a way to get around. It was freedom. It was independence. It was proof that he wasn't invisible, that his efforts meant something. But in the Collins household, Ethan's efforts often went unnoticed. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Collins, had their eyes fixed on his younger sister, Claire. Claire was bright, outgoing, and the center of every family conversation. She didn't have to work odd jobs or save pennies. She only had to ask, and their parents made it happen. If she wanted new clothes, she got them. If she failed a class, there was always an excuse ready to cover her. If she got into trouble, the family bent over backward to rescue her. Ethan, on the other hand, was expected to adjust, to understand, to sacrifice. "You're the older one, Ethan," his father often said. "You need to be responsible." Responsibility, in their house, always meant giving up something for Claire's sake. Still, Ethan tried not to resent her. He told himself she was his sister and family came first. He believed loyalty meant staying quiet, even when it hurt. So he kept saving, hiding away every paycheck, counting every dollar. He dreamed of the day he would hand over the money and drive away in the car he had worked so hard for. After years of effort, that day finally came. Ethan bought his dream car. It wasn't the flashiest car in the world, but to him, it was perfect. Sleek, clean, and reliable, it shined under the sun as if celebrating his achievement. The first time he slid behind the wheel, he felt a rush of pride so strong it almost brought him to tears. He had done this, not his parents, not anyone else. Every long night and every sacrifice had led to this moment. Driving that car gave him something he had never truly felt before, confidence. It wasn't about showing off. It was about knowing he had accomplished something with his own two hands. He could take himself anywhere. He could make his own way in life. That car was more than metal and wheels. It was his sweat, his pride, his independence sitting in the driveway. But the pride he felt was never shared at home. His parents didn't celebrate his purchase. His mother gave him a polite smile, as though the car were a toy he'd grown attached to. His father nodded once and said, "Good, now you can help drive your sister around when she needs it." Even then, they found a way to make his achievement about Claire. And Claire? She treated the car as if it were already half her. She would borrow it without asking, leaving crumbs in the seat and scratches on the door. Ethan would bite his tongue, swallowing his frustration, telling himself to be patient. He reminded himself that family mattered, that maybe this was his role, to provide quietly while others took. Yet deep down, Ethan couldn't help but feel invisible. No matter what he did, no matter how much he worked, it seemed like it was never enough to make his parents proud. He carried the weight of being responsible, but never the reward. And the car, his car, was the one thing that belonged entirely to him. It was the one thing no one could take away, the one thing that proved he was more than the shadow of his sister. For Ethan, the stakes were higher than anyone around him understood. That car was not just transportation. It was the symbol of his determination, the proof of his worth, the reminder that his hard work had meaning. Without it, he feared he would sink back into the background, unnoticed, unappreciated, forgotten. And so he guarded it, cared for it, polished it like a treasure. Every morning when he saw it in the driveway, it reminded him that even if his family didn't see him, his effort had built something real. It gave him strength, a reason to keep pushing forward. What Ethan didn't know was that the very thing he valued most, the symbol of his independence, would soon become the weapon of his deepest betrayal. Ethan came home from work one evening, tired but relieved. The thought of his car waiting for him in the driveway always gave him a little boost. He imagined himself going for a drive later, windows down, music playing, the stress of the day melting away. But when he turned into the driveway, his heart stopped. The space where his car usually sat was empty. At first, he thought maybe Claire had taken it again without asking. His jaw tightened, but he told himself he'd deal with it later. He walked inside, dropping his bag by the door. His mother was in the kitchen, and his father sat at the table with a serious look on his face. Claire stood in the corner, scrolling through her phone, but she didn't look up. "Where's my car?" Ethan asked, trying to keep his voice calm. His mother froze, setting down the spoon in her hand. She looked at his father, who sighed heavily, as if the conversation was one he had prepared for, but didn't want to have. "Ethan," his father began, "we needed to make a difficult decision." Ethan's stomach tightened. "What decision?" His father cleared his throat. "We sold the car." The words hit Ethan like a slap. He stared at his father, certain he had misheard. "What? We sold it?" His mother repeated, her tone softer, almost apologetic. "Your sister was in trouble. She needed help." Ethan blinked, his mind racing. "You sold my car?" "Without asking me." His voice cracked between disbelief and anger. "It was necessary," his father said firmly. "Claire had debts. Some people were threatening to take action. We had to step in." Ethan turned sharply to his sister. "Claire, what did you do this time?" She finally looked up, her eyes full of guilt, but also a hint of defiance. "It wasn't my fault. Things just got out of hand." "Got out of hand?" Ethan repeated, his chest tightening. "I worked for years to buy that car. And you just sold it like it was nothing. You need to understand, Ethan," his mother said quickly, stepping closer as though trying to calm him. "Family sacrifices for family. That's what we do." "Sacrifice?" Ethan's voice rose, sharp with hurt. "You call it sacrifice when I'm the only one losing something? You didn't sacrifice your car. You didn't sacrifice your comfort. You took mine. The one thing I earned with my own sweat." His father slammed his hand against the table. "Don't raise your voice at your mother. We did what was right for this family. Claire needed help, and as the older brother, you should be proud you were able to provide it." Ethan's hands shook at his sides. "Proud? You expect me to be proud that you stripped away everything I worked for? That you treated me like I don't matter? That car wasn't just a car. It was my life, my proof that I wasn't invisible to this family. And you sold it, without even looking me in the eye." His mother's face tightened, her eyes glistening. "Ethan, please. We had no other choice." "There's always a choice," Ethan said, his voice now quieter, steadier, but sharper than ever. "And you chose her. You always choose her." Silence fell over the room. The only sound was the ticking of the old wall clock. Claire shifted uncomfortably, biting her lip but saying nothing. His father looked away, as though unable to face the storm he had created. Ethan felt something break inside him. The trust he had held onto for so long, the hope that maybe one day his parents would see him, appreciate him, value him, shattered in that moment. He turned toward the door, his voice cold. "You didn't just sell my car. You sold my respect for you. Don't expect me to forget this." And with that, he walked out of the house. Ethan didn't sleep much the night after his parents told him they had sold his car. He lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every word in his mind. His father's stern voice. His mother's pleading tone. Claire's silence. The house had felt heavy, like the air itself was against him. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt like a stranger in his own home. The next morning, he got up early for work. Normally, he would drive his car proudly, enjoying the freedom of owning something that was his. Now he stood at the bus stop, waiting in the cold, his chest tight with anger. Every time a car passed, he thought about the one that should have been his. People around him chatted and laughed, but Ethan couldn't hear them. All he could hear was the sound of betrayal echoing in his head. At work, he tried to keep his focus. He worked in a small firm, a place where long hours and endless deadlines were the norm. His boss had always admired his dedication, but now Ethan pushed even harder. He stayed late, picked up extra projects, and forced himself to smile even when exhaustion pulled at his body. He wasn't just working for money anymore. He was working to prove something, to himself, to the world, and maybe even to his family. Still, the pain didn't leave. At lunch, while others laughed over their sandwiches, Ethan sat quietly, scrolling through his phone, calculating savings, looking at job listings, and reading about investments. Every new plan he made was fueled by the fire inside him. He told himself he would not be broken. He told himself that one day, they would regret underestimating him. But at home, things grew worse. His parents acted as though nothing had happened. His mother asked him to pick up groceries. His father made small talk about the news. Claire strolled around the house carefree, laughing loudly on phone calls, sometimes tossing him a smile as if she had done nothing wrong. To them, the car was gone and life had moved on. To Ethan, the wound was still raw. What hurt even more were the small comments. His father would say things like, "You're young, you'll get another car one day." His mother would add, "At least Claire is safe now, that's what matters." Claire, emboldened by their protection, would tease him lightly, "Don't be so serious all the time, Ethan. It was just a car." Every word dug deeper into him. They couldn't see it, but each time, something inside Ethan pulled further away. He began speaking less at dinner, answering in short replies. He stopped asking about their days. He stopped waiting for their approval. When his father made jokes, Ethan only nodded. When his mother tried to soften him with kindness, he gave a polite smile but stayed distant. Claire, sensing the change, grew uneasy, but still said nothing. In the quiet of his room, Ethan's mind was restless. Loyalty told him to forgive. After all, these were his parents. They had raised him, put food on the table, kept a roof over his head. But self-worth screamed louder, telling him he couldn't keep living as if his dreams didn't matter, as if his sacrifices were invisible. He remembered all the times as a boy when he gave up little things for Claire. When she wanted his share of dessert, he gave it. When she broke something, he took the blame. When she cried, their parents rushed to comfort her while telling him to be the bigger person. All his life, he had been the one expected to carry the weight. And now, when it came to the one thing that belonged to him, they had taken it too. That thought became his turning point. Ethan decided he would not fight them openly. What good would shouting do? They had already made their choice clear. But he would not forget. Instead, he would focus on himself. Day by day, Ethan threw himself into his career. He learned new skills, took online courses after work, and saved every cent he could. He refused to spend money carelessly. Every dollar was fuel for his future. The anger that once burned hot slowly turned into determination. His co-workers began to notice his quiet discipline, the way he always stayed late, the way he never complained. His boss pulled him aside one afternoon and said, "You've got potential, Ethan. Keep this up and you'll go far." Those words filled him with a strength his family had never given him. At home, the distance grew. He stopped joining them for family movie nights. He skipped Sunday dinners, saying he had work to finish. When relatives came over, he stayed in his room or left the house. His absence spoke louder than his words ever could. The Collins household began to feel his silence like a shadow creeping across the walls. His parents grew uneasy. His mother asked one night, "Why don't you spend time with us anymore?" Ethan only replied, "I've got things to do." His father scolded him, "Don't act too big for this family," but Ethan didn't argue. He simply went back to his room. Claire, who once boasted loudly, now found herself hesitating when she passed his door. The boy who once tried so hard to win their approval was gone. In his place was a man building his own path, stone by stone, fueled by the very betrayal that was meant to break him. Slowly, without announcing it, Ethan was slipping away from them. He still lived under their roof, but his heart was moving elsewhere. Each day he built walls around himself, higher and stronger, leaving his parents and sister on the outside, wondering when the boy they once dismissed would come back. They didn't know yet that he never would, not in the way they expected. 2 years had passed since Ethan had walked out of the house, his chest tight with betrayal. In that time, he had built a life of his own. The long hours, the sacrifices, the endless work, they had paid off. Today, he was no longer the overlooked son. Today, he was a man who had made his own way, and he was ready to show it. The sleek, metallic blue luxury car rolled smoothly down the familiar street, engine purring like a promise. Neighbors paused to glance, whispering under their breath. But Ethan wasn't looking at them. He was focused on the house at the end of the block, the place that had once been his home, but had felt like a cage. He parked in the driveway and stepped out, the afternoon sun glinting off the polished surface of the car. The door to the porch swung open, and there they were, his parents and Claire. The surprise on their faces was immediate. His mother's hand flew to her mouth. His father's eyes widened, jaw tightening. Claire, standing frozen near the door, dropped her phone as if it had suddenly grown heavy. For a moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the car engine and the distant chirping of birds. Ethan walked toward the door slowly, each step measured, calm, confident. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The car behind him, the poise in his walk, the quiet authority in his posture, it all said what words could not. Ethan, his mother finally breathed, voice shaky. He stopped at the threshold, turning to face them fully. "Hello," he said, his tone even, controlled, but carrying an edge that made them shift uncomfortably. His father cleared his throat. This is impressive. Where did you?" Ethan let a faint smile touch his lips. "I worked for it. Just like I did before, only this time, I didn't rely on anyone else." Claire's eyes darted to the car, then to him, a flicker of unease passing across her face. I didn't know you could afford this." "You didn't think I would," Ethan replied softly, but each word carried weight. That's the difference. They still didn't get it. They didn't understand that he wasn't here for a casual visit. He was here to show them exactly what their choices had cost him, and how it had fueled him instead of breaking him. He stepped closer, locking eyes with his father first. "Do you remember 2 years ago? When you sold my car? You told me it was for Claire, because family sacrifices for family. You thought that would break me, that I would stay small, grateful for what little I had. You gambled on the wrong child." His mother's lips trembled. "Ethan, you don't get to interrupt," he said, calm but firm. "You don't get to erase the years of effort, the nights I worked myself to exhaustion, the sacrifices I made silently. You thought taking my car would teach me obedience. Instead, it lit a fire in me. Every insult, every favor you gave to her while ignoring me, I used it to build something greater than you ever imagined." Claire stepped back, her confident air gone. "Ethan, I see you now," he said, turning his gaze on her. The girl who always had everything handed to her. The one who never learned how to fight for herself. "I see you struggling, and I can't help but think about all the times I protected you without anyone noticing. You didn't even realize I could rise higher than you. But I did." His parents exchanged glances, panic flickering in their eyes. For the first time, they were silent, stripped of excuses. The child they had coddled, the one they believed would always win because of their protection, was struggling. And the child they had dismissed, ignored, and underestimated had become everything they thought they could never be. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the years of anger and determination settle into quiet power. "I came back to show you this. Your choices don't define me. Your approval is no longer required. I built my life. I built my success. And nothing you did, or failed to do, can take it away from me." The house was still. Even Claire's breathing sounded heavier, uneven. Their parents looked at him, guilt and disbelief etched into their faces. For the first time, they realized that the golden child they had protected was faltering while the overlooked son had surpassed every expectation. "I hope," Ethan said softly, "you understand what your actions cost you. Not just my car, not just my trust, but the respect you thought you owned. I didn't need your approval to succeed. I only needed to believe in myself." He paused, letting the words sink in. Then, with one last look at the stunned faces of the people who had once held so much power over him, he turned and walked back to his car. Sliding into the driver's seat, he started the engine. The roar of the engine seemed louder than before, echoing through the driveway, announcing his victory without a single word. As he pulled away, leaving his parents and Claire standing on the porch, Ethan felt a calm satisfaction. He didn't yell. He didn't demand apologies. He had done something far stronger. He had shown them that no betrayal could stop him, that their choices had only made him stronger, sharper, and unstoppable. And in the rearview mirror, he caught their expressions one last time, faces full. The next morning, Ethan returned once more, not in anger but with a clear mind. His parents had called him all night, his phone buzzing with missed calls and unread messages. They wanted to talk. They wanted to explain. For years, Ethan would have jumped at the chance to hear them, to feel seen, to finally be acknowledged. But this time was different. He wasn't the same young man who once begged for their approval. He had built his own life, and he no longer needed theirs to feel whole. When he stepped into the living room, his mother stood up quickly, eyes red from crying. "Ethan," she whispered, reaching for his hand. Pleased we made mistakes. We didn't realize what we were doing. His father, usually proud and unbending, looked smaller somehow. His shoulders slumped, his voice heavy with regret. Son, we were wrong. We should have treated you better. We should have seen you. Claire sat silently, her head bowed. The girl who once carried herself with pride and entitlement now looked fragile, her eyes wet with shame. For once, she had nothing to say. Ethan listened, his face calm. The words that once would have healed him no longer carried the same power. He didn't need them. What he needed was clarity. What he needed was to make sure they understood the truth. I don't hate you, he said finally, his voice steady. I never did. Even when you sold my car, even when you ignored my effort, I still loved you. That's what made it hurt so much. His mother covered her mouth, sobbing softly. But love without respect is nothing, Ethan continued. And for years, you showed me I was less important. Every time you excused Claire's mistakes. Every time you asked me to sacrifice and called it duty. Every time you made me feel invisible. You may not have seen it, but I carried that pain every single day. His father's eyes glistened, and he opened his mouth to speak, but Ethan raised a hand gently. I'm not here to hear excuses, Ethan said firmly. I've moved on from needing your approval. I built my life, not because of you, but in spite of you. And I'm proud of that. What I want now isn't your apology, it's your understanding. Respect is not negotiable. If I am to be in this family, it will be as your equal, not your sacrifice. The room was silent. His words hung in the air, sharp and undeniable. His mother wept quietly, his father bowed his head, and Claire wiped her tears with trembling hands. Ethan stood taller, feeling lighter than he ever had before. I forgive you, he said softly, and their heads lifted with hope. But forgiveness does not erase memory. I will never forget what happened, and I will never allow it to happen again. His father reached for him, but Ethan stepped back slightly, not in anger, but in boundary. I have my own home now, my own life. I will visit when I choose, but I will not be pulled back into the same patterns. If you want me here, then respect me. If not, then I will keep moving forward without you. Either way, I will be fine. His words were final. They carried no bitterness, only truth. Ethan turned toward the door, pausing only for a moment. You once thought you were saving Claire by taking from me, but in the end, you lost something greater. You lost my trust. Maybe one day, you'll understand what that cost. And with that, he walked out. This time, he didn't look back. He didn't need to. His dignity was intact, his life his own, and that was the greatest justice of all. Outside, the sun was bright, reflecting off his car. He slid into the driver's seat, exhaled deeply, and started the engine. The sound wasn't just noise. It was freedom. It was closure. It was the rhythm of a man who no longer needed anyone's validation to know his. Ethan drove away, leaving behind the house that once held his silence and his pain. Now it only held his family's regret. True justice wasn't in revenge. It was in walking away with his head held high, knowing that no betrayal, no favoritism, no dismissal could stop him from becoming the man he was meant to be. The road stretched out ahead of him, smooth and endless. Ethan gripped the wheel lightly, the hum of the engine steady beneath him. For the first time in years, there was no weight on his chest, no shadow of doubt hanging over him. The house grew smaller in his rearview mirror, but he didn't feel the urge to turn back. His reflection stared back at him in the glass, calm, steady, unshaken. He no longer looked like the boy who once begged to be seen. He looked like a man who had chosen himself. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in gold and crimson, Ethan let his thoughts flow like a voice carried on the wind. Sometimes, the people you love the most will be the ones to betray you the deepest. They will take what you value, dismiss your dreams, and expect you to stay quiet. But healing is choosing yourself, even when they don't choose you. It's finding your worth when others refuse to see it. The words lived in his heart, steady and true. He didn't need his parents' approval anymore. He didn't need their recognition or their apologies. What he needed, he had already built: dignity, strength, and a future crafted by his own hands. The road curved, and he pressed lightly on the accelerator, the car gliding forward with power and grace. Freedom wasn't in escaping them. It was in knowing he could stand on his own, unbroken, unstoppable. In the rearview mirror, the house disappeared completely, swallowed by distance. Ahead of him, the open road waited, full of promise. Ethan smiled to himself, the kind of smile that came from deep inside. He had been betrayed, but he had not been destroyed. He had been underestimated, but he had risen. And now he was free. He drove on into the horizon, carrying with him not bitterness, but peace. The kind of peace that comes only when you finally choose yourself. Hey besties, thanks for watching till the end. Ethan's story showed us that sometimes even family can betray you.